In the first week of April 1737, panic gripped the Mughal capital of Delhi. On the dark waters of the Yamuna River, wooden boats were hastily prepared, rocking on the current as the emperor readied a desperate escape. A Maratha cavalry force had completely bypassed the imperial defensive lines. Moving over 40 kilometers a day, they arrived undetected and set up camp directly outside the imposing red walls of the city. The architect of this strike was Peshwa Bajirao I. At a time when Indian warfare relied on heavy artillery and static defense, this young commander replaced those traditional methods with a force built entirely for speed and long-distance maneuvering. This arrival at the gates of Delhi was the calculated climax of a 17-year strategy intended to uproot the foundations of the Mughal Empire. That strategy began in 1720, despite fierce opposition from traditional senior chieftains. Chhatrapati Shahu appointed a 20-year-old Bajirao to the position of Peshwa, or prime minister. Bajirao operated on a specific geopolitical theory. He observed that the Mughal Empire was suffering from terminal decline, making it highly vulnerable to an aggressive Maratha expansion into northern India. He illustrated his theory with a simple metaphor. If we strike at the trunk of the withering tree, he argued, the branches will fall off themselves. To execute this northern push, Bajirao required a centralized base of operations. He established Shaniwar Wada in Pune, laying the physical and administrative foundation for his campaigns. However, before he could plant the flag of Hindavi Swarajya in the north, Bajirao first had to neutralize the immediate massive military threats residing in his own southern backyard. The most pressing threat was the Nizam-ul-Mulk, the Mughal viceroy of the Deccan. He refused to pay agreed taxes to the Marathas and openly allied with rival claimants to challenge Chhatrapati Shahu's legitimacy. To understand how Bajirao dismantled this threat, we have to look at this tactical comparison. The Nizam commanded a traditional, slow-moving army, heavily reliant on large artillery blocks. Bajirao countered with a purely mounted, lightly armed cavalry force. Bajirao's military doctrine relied entirely on strategic mobility. Instead of engaging the Nizam's heavy guns in a pitched battle, the Maratha cavalry drew the enemy into a grueling chase across the rough Deccan terrain, constantly stretching their supply lines. By February 1728, the trap closed at Palkhed. The Maratha swarm tightly encircled the Nizam's stationary forces, completely severing their access to food and water. The Nizam was forced to negotiate a humiliating surrender. The Marathas neutralized a vastly superior force without shedding a drop of blood in open combat. With the south secured, Bajirao turned north. In early 1729, he executed a rapid march to Bundelkhand to rescue Maharaja Chhatrasal, who had been cornered by a devastating Mughal siege. After Bajirao broke the siege, a grateful Chhatrasal bequeathed a third of his kingdom to the Marathas. This granted Bajirao massive wealth, diamond mines, and a direct, secure route to Delhi. The alliance was cemented with a royal marriage. Chhatrasal gifted his daughter, Mastani, to Bajirao. She was the daughter of the king and his Persian concubine, Ruhani Begum. Historical records are clear about her background. She was a highly trained warrior, accomplished in swordplay, who regularly rode and fought alongside Bajirao on his campaigns. The marriage and territorial grants in Bundelkhand provided Bajirao with the leverage and formidable partner he needed to push deep into northern India. This northern push culminated in the 1737 dash to Delhi. In response to that humiliation, the Mughal emperor ordered the assembly of an overwhelming force. As we see in this historical account, the Mughal army under the Nizam swelled to 150,000 men, marching south to crush the Marathas. Bajirao countered by dividing the battlefield. He dispatched his brother Chimaji Appa with a blocking force to the Tapti River, permanently cutting off any further Mughal reinforcements traveling from the south. Then he executed his signature encirclement tactic at Bhopal. As recorded in this text, the Nizam quickly realized he was trapped. Outnumbered nearly 3-1, the Marathas severed the Mughal supply lines, starving them into submission. On January 7, 1738, the Nizam signed the Treaty of Daraha. He formally ceded the entire wealthy province of Malwa to the Marathas and paid a massive indemnity. The victory at Bhopal broke the spine of the Mughal military. Bajirao's theory was proven correct. He struck the trunk and the branches fell. On the battlefield, Bajirao achieved a flawless record of 41 undefeated campaigns. But within his own court in Pune, he faced bitter, exhausting opposition from orthodox factions who refused to accept Mastani into the Peshwa household. The stress of these internal political battles compounded the physical toll of his lifestyle. He spent 20 years in constant motion, living out of a saddle and sleeping in military camps. The commander who had brought the Mughal administration to the brink of collapse was ultimately stopped not by an enemy army, but by a sudden, virulent fever. He died on the banks of the Narmada River at Remarkably in April 1740. He was 39 years old. In just 2 decades, Bajirao transformed a localized Maratha kingdom into a dominant pan-Indian empire. Military historians place him among the greatest cavalry generals in world history, citing his campaigns as foundational studies in maneuver warfare and strategic mobility. His undefeated record leaves us with a question. When you look at the map of his conquests, what truly made Bajirao unstoppable? Was it his raw speed on the battlefield, his tactics, or his overarching political vision? Let us know in the comments.
Like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos.